Ethan Parker was the kind of student most people never noticed. At 17, he lived a quiet life in a small town, balancing school and responsibility in a way most of his classmates could never understand. Every Friday evening, while other students were heading to football games, parties, or hanging out at the mall, he put on his faded blue uniform and worked as a bag boy at the local grocery store. He spent hours packing groceries, carrying heavy bags to cars, and smiling politely at customers who barely looked at him. He didn't complain. He needed the job. His mother worked double shifts at a diner after his father had left years ago. Money was always tight, and Ethan did whatever he could to help. At school, Ethan kept his head down. He wasn't popular. He wasn't athletic. He wasn't rich. He was just invisible. Except when it came to one person. Ren Castellano. Ren was beautiful, confident, and the most popular girl in school. For almost a year, Ethan secretly liked her. When the homecoming poster appeared in school, Ethan made a decision. He would ask her. After working extra hours, he saved exactly $8. The next day, he bought a single red rose. At lunch, he walked into the crowded school courtyard. His hands trembled as he approached Ren. Standing in front of everyone, he held out the rose. Ren, would you go to homecoming with me? The courtyard fell silent. Ren slowly took the rose. For a second, Ethan felt hope. Then, snap, she broke the rose in half. Looking straight into his eyes, she said loudly, I would never be seen with someone like you. The entire courtyard exploded with laughter. Phones came out. People pointed and whispered. That day, Ethan became the school joke. They called him Rose Boy. For weeks, students mocked him. Broken roses appeared in his locker. The humiliation was unbearable. That night, Ethan sat alone in his room, staring at the broken rose stem. And he made himself a promise. He would never let anyone make him feel small again. He studied harder, worked longer hours, ignored the laughter. Years passed. Ethan earned a scholarship, graduated from a top university, started his own company, failed, tried again, failed again, but he never gave up. Eventually, he built one of the fastest growing tech companies in the country. 10 years later, he received an invitation. Westfield High School reunion. When Ethan walked into the reunion wearing a sharp black suit, the room went silent. No one could believe it. Then Ren saw him. She walked over, shocked. Ethan, wow, you look amazing. She hesitated. I'm sorry for what happened back then. Then she smiled nervously. Would you maybe like to have dinner sometime? Ethan looked at her calmly. Then he replied, I wouldn't be seen with someone like you. Her face turned pale. The exact words she had once said to him. Ethan turned and walked away, not out of revenge, but because he had outgrown the pain she caused. Sometimes, the moments that break us become the moments that build us. Ethan turned and walked away. Not once did he look back. Behind him, the reunion hall had fallen completely silent. Ren stood frozen in place, her face pale with shock. For the first time in her life, she understood what true humiliation felt like. But Ethan felt no satisfaction, no revenge, no anger. As he stepped outside into the cold night air, he took a deep breath and looked up at the stars. The words he had spoken to Ren echoed in his mind. For years, he had imagined this moment. He thought it would feel like victory, but instead, it felt empty. His phone buzzed. It was a message from his assistant. Sir, tomorrow's board meeting has been confirmed. Investors from New York will be attending. Ethan glanced at the message and slipped the phone back into his pocket. His company, Parker Innovations, was on the verge of launching its biggest project yet. A revolutionary education platform designed to help underprivileged students earn scholarships. It was worth millions, and if successful, it would change thousands of lives. But despite all his success, something inside him still felt unfinished. As Ethan walked toward his car, he heard hurried footsteps behind him. Ethan, wait. He turned. It was Ren. She was slightly out of breath, her eyes filled with emotion. Please, just give me a minute. Ethan said nothing. Ren hesitated before speaking. I deserved what you said back there. Her voice trembled. But there's something you need to know. Ethan folded his arms. Ren looked down for a moment, gathering courage. After high school, my life didn't turn out the way everyone expected. The confidence she once carried was gone. Her voice was softer now, real. My father lost everything in a business collapse. We lost our house. My family fell apart. Ethan's expression remained unreadable. Ren continued. I spent years trying to rebuild my life. I worked 2 jobs while finishing college. She looked up at him. And every single time life knocked me down, I remembered what I did to you. Ethan's jaw tightened slightly. Ren swallowed hard. I was cruel, Ethan. I was immature and shallow. A tear rolled down her cheek. I've regretted that day for 10 years. Before Ethan could respond, another voice suddenly called out from the parking lot. Mr. Parker? Both of them turned. A young man in a formal suit was hurrying toward Ethan. He looked nervous. Sorry to interrupt, sir, but there's an urgent issue. Ethan frowned. What happened? The man handed him his tablet. The color drained from Ethan's face as he read the screen. His company's biggest investor had just withdrawn. The project he had spent years building was now at risk of collapsing overnight. And if he couldn't fix it before morning, everything he had worked for could disappear. Ren noticed the sudden tension in his expression. What happened? Ethan looked at her for a long moment, then quietly said, I might be about to lose everything. The words hung heavily in the cold night air. I might be about to lose everything. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Ren stared at Ethan, shocked. This was the man everyone now saw as unstoppable. The billionaire success story. The boy who had risen from humiliation and built an empire. And yet, standing under the dim parking lot lights, Ethan looked exactly like the nervous 17-year-old boy who once stood in the school courtyard holding a single red rose. Except this time, the fear in his eyes wasn't about rejection. It was about losing everything he had spent 10 years building. What happened? Ren asked softly. Ethan exhaled and looked at the tablet in his hand. The lead investor for Parker Innovations just pulled out. Ren's eyes widened. What? Why? Ethan shook his head. No explanation. They backed out an hour ago. He stared at the glowing screen. Without that investment, the education platform would collapse before launch. Years of planning, thousands of students depending on it, gone. His assistant stepped closer. Sir, the board meeting is at 8 a.m. If we can't secure replacement funding before then. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. Ethan knew exactly what it meant. The company's stock would crash. Competitors would attack. Everything could fall apart in a single day. Ren hesitated, then spoke carefully. Can I ask you something? Ethan looked at her. Why build an education platform? Out of all the questions he expected, that wasn't one of them. He was silent for a moment. Then he answered, because I know what it feels like to be overlooked. His voice was calm, but heavy with meaning. When I was younger, nobody believed in me. He looked down briefly. There were days I almost gave up. Ren lowered her eyes. She knew exactly who he was talking about. Ethan continued. If just one person had believed in me back then, everything would have been different. His expression hardened. So I built this platform to become that person for someone else. The words hit Ren harder than she expected, because in that moment, she realized something devastating. The boy she had once humiliated had used that pain to create hope for thousands of others, and she had been one of the reasons he had suffered. Before she could respond, her phone suddenly buzzed. She glanced at the screen. Then her face changed completely. What is it? Ethan asked. Ren looked up, visibly shaken. It's my uncle. And she swallowed hard. He's one of the senior partners at Holloway Capital. Ethan's eyes narrowed instantly. Holloway Capital, the very firm that had just pulled their investment. Ren stared at the screen, her hands trembling. My uncle was the one who approved your funding. Ethan's expression darkened. What are you saying? Ren looked him directly in the eyes. Her voice was barely above a whisper. I think he pulled out on purpose. The parking lot suddenly felt colder. Ethan took a step closer. Why would he do that? Ren hesitated, then said the words that changed everything. Because 2 weeks ago, he found out I was coming to this reunion. Ethan frowned. What does that have to do with anything? Ren looked terrified. My uncle knows about what happened to you in high school. Ethan's face hardened. And she swallowed. He told me something strange yesterday. What? Ren's voice trembled. He said, some people don't deserve second chances. And tomorrow, Ethan Parker will finally learn that. A heavy silence followed. Ethan's mind raced. This wasn't business. This was personal. Someone was trying to destroy everything he had built. And somehow, Ren's family was connected to it. Before Ethan could speak, his phone rang again. It was his assistant. He answered immediately. The voice on the other end sounded panicked. Sir, there's been a breach. Ethan's blood ran cold. What kind of breach? The reply came like a knife to the chest. Someone hacked into the platform servers, and they've erased everything. Ethan froze. For a moment, he couldn't process the words. Someone hacked into the platform servers, and they've erased everything. The world around him seemed to stop. The reunion music inside the gym faded into distant noise. His grip tightened around the phone. What do you mean erased everything? Ethan demanded. His assistant's voice shook. The entire student database, scholarship applications, years of development files. There was a pause. Then came the words Ethan feared most. It's all gone, sir. The call ended. Ethan stood motionless, staring into the darkness. 10 years of sacrifice. 10 years of sleepless nights. 10 years of building a dream meant to help thousands of struggling students. Gone, just like that. Ren watched him carefully. For the first time, she saw real pain behind his calm exterior. Not the pain of heartbreak. Not the sting of rejection. This was deeper. This was the kind of pain that comes when your life's purpose is ripped away. Ethan, she whispered, but he didn't respond. His mind was racing. Something didn't add up. A major investor withdrawing hours before launch. A cyber attack timed perfectly. Her uncle's strange warning. This wasn't coincidence. It was planned. Slowly, Ethan looked up. His expression had changed. The shock was gone. In its place was focus. Cold, sharp focus. He turned to Ren. How much do you trust your uncle? Ren hesitated. The answer should have been simple, but it wasn't. Her uncle, Victor Holloway, had always been powerful, calculated, the kind of man who smiled while controlling everyone around him. As a child, she admired him. As an adult, she feared him. Finally, she answered, I don't. Ethan nodded. Then he asked quietly, would you help me prove he did this? Ren's breath caught. Helping Ethan would mean going against her own family, against one of the most powerful financial men in the city. It could destroy what little stability she had rebuilt. But then she remembered the boy in the courtyard, the broken rose, the cruel laughter, and the guilt she had carried for 10 years. This was her chance to finally do the right thing. She looked him directly in the eyes. Yes. For the first time that night, Ethan allowed himself a faint smile. Then we start now. Minutes later, they were speeding through the city in Ethan's black car. Rain had begun pouring heavily against the windshield. Inside the car, tension filled the air. Ren explained everything she knew. Victor Holloway had been under pressure for months. Rumors of financial fraud had been quietly circulating among investors. If Parker Innovations succeeded, it would expose several of Victor's failing investments and shift major financial power away from his firm. Destroying Ethan's company would protect Victor's empire. He must have used the reunion as a distraction, Ren said. Ethan's jaw tightened. So while everyone was celebrating, he made his move. Ren nodded. There's one place we might find proof. Where? My uncle's private office. Ethan glanced at her. That's not exactly easy to access. Ren gave him a determined look. I still have the security code. 30 minutes later, they arrived at the towering Holloway Capitol building. The city skyline glowed through the rain. The office was dark, silent, too silent. Ren entered the security code. The doors clicked open. They stepped inside. The lobby was empty. Their footsteps echoed across the polished marble floor. As they reached Victor's office on the top floor, Ethan's pulse quickened. Ren slowly opened the door. Inside, moonlight spilled across the room. Everything looked untouched. Too untouched. Ethan moved quickly to the computer. Locked. Ren crossed to a painting on the wall. Her uncle had always hidden things in strange places. She carefully lifted the frame. Behind it was a small hidden keypad. She entered 6 digits. A soft mechanical click sounded. A concealed drawer slid open. Inside was a flash drive. Ren stared at it. This is it. Ethan took it and plugged it into the computer. Files instantly appeared on screen. Emails, bank transfers, encrypted messages, and then one video file. Its title made both of them go pale. Operation Roseboy. Ethan slowly clicked it open. The screen flickered to life. Victor Holloway appeared. He was sitting at his desk, speaking directly to the camera, and his first words sent ice through Ethan's veins. If you're watching this, then it means Ethan Parker has discovered the truth, and by now, it's probably too late. The screen glowed in the darkness. Victor Holloway's cold face stared directly at them. His expression was calm, controlled, almost amused. If you're watching this, then it means Ethan Parker has discovered the truth, and by now, it's probably too late. Ren's hand flew to her mouth. Ethan's eyes narrowed as he leaned closer to the screen. Victor continued. I always admired intelligent people, Ethan. You built an empire from humiliation. That takes discipline. His lips curled into a faint smile. But unfortunately, your success became inconvenient. The video shifted. Charts and confidential financial records appeared. Ethan's face darkened as he recognized them. They were files exposing Holloway Capital's illegal transactions. Millions of dollars had been secretly moved through shell companies. Investor funds had been manipulated for years. Victor's voice continued over the footage. When Parker Innovations announced its education platform, major investors began preparing to move their capital away from my firm. The screen returned to Victor. I couldn't allow that. Ren stared in disbelief. You did all this for money? She whispered, though he couldn't hear her. Victor leaned forward. No empire falls without resistance. Then his expression became colder. So I arranged staged your collapse. Ethan clenched his fists. The video continued. The investor withdrawal was step 1. The server breach was step 2. And by sunrise, Victor smiled. The final step will erase Ethan Parker forever. The video abruptly ended. Silence filled the office. Rand's face had gone pale. What does he mean by erase forever? Ethan's mind raced. Victor wasn't the type to make empty threats. If he had a final move planned, it would already be in motion. Suddenly, Ethan's phone buzzed violently. It was his assistant again. He answered instantly. The panic in the voice on the other end was unmistakable. Sir, you need to see this right now. What happened? There's breaking news everywhere. A second later, Ethan's own phone exploded with alerts. News headlines flashed across the screen. Tech CEO Ethan Parker under federal investigation. Millions stolen from education platform. Parker Innovations accused of fraud. Rand gasped. No. Ethan's stomach dropped. It was a setup. Victor had planted false evidence. By morning, Ethan would be publicly destroyed. His company would collapse. His reputation would be ruined. And no one would believe his side. Rand looked terrified. He framed you. Ethan's jaw tightened. Victor had struck harder than he imagined. This wasn't just sabotage. It was total destruction. Then another notification appeared. This one wasn't from the news. It was a direct message from an unknown number. Ethan opened it. A single line appeared on the screen. Check the reunion gym. The truth is waiting for you. Attached was a photo. The image made Ethan's blood run cold. It showed the reunion gymnasium. And in the center of the empty dance floor was a single red rose. Ren stared at it. What is this? Ethan's breathing slowed. He understood immediately. Victor wasn't done. This was personal. The rose wasn't random. It was a message. A reminder of the moment Ethan had been broken. Someone was waiting for them at the gym. And whatever was there would decide everything. Ethan looked at Ren. Come on. They ran. Rain pounded against them as they raced back to the car. The drive felt endless. Neither spoke. Both knew they were heading straight into Victor Holloway's trap. When they finally arrived at Westfield High, the parking lot was completely empty. The reunion lights were still on, but the building was silent. Too silent. They stepped inside. The hallway lights flickered. Their footsteps echoed through the empty school. As they approached the gymnasium doors, Ethan's heart pounded. The same doors he had walked through 10 years ago. The same place where his life had changed forever. Slowly, he pushed them open. The gym was dark, except for one spotlight shining in the center of the floor, and beneath it stood a single red rose. Attached to it was a note. Ethan picked it up. His hands tightened as he read the words written across the page. To understand why this all began, look beneath the stage. Rand's voice trembled. Ethan. He looked toward the old stage at the far end of the gym, and for reasons he couldn't explain, he suddenly remembered something. 10 years ago, the day Ren humiliated him, just before he had walked into the courtyard, he had seen Victor Holloway standing near that very stage, watching, smiling. Ethan froze. For a moment, he couldn't process the words. Someone hacked into the platform servers, and they've erased everything. The world around him seemed to stop. The reunion music inside the gym faded into distant noise. His grip tightened around the phone. What do you mean erased everything? Ethan demanded. His assistant's voice shook. The entire student database, scholarship applications, years of development files. There was a pause. Then came the words Ethan feared most. It's all gone, sir. The call ended. Ethan stood motionless, staring into the darkness. 10 years of sacrifice. 10 years of sleepless nights. 10 years of building a dream meant to help thousands of struggling students. Gone. Just like that. Ren watched him carefully. For the first time, she saw real pain behind his calm exterior. Not the pain of heartbreak. Not the sting of rejection. This was deeper. This was the kind of pain that comes when your life's purpose is ripped away. Ethan, she whispered, but he didn't respond. His mind was racing. Something didn't add up. A major investor withdrawing hours before launch. A cyber attack timed perfectly. Her uncle's strange warning. This wasn't coincidence. It was planned. Slowly, Ethan looked up. His expression had changed. The shock was gone. In its place was focus. Cold, sharp focus. He turned to Ren. How much do you trust your uncle? Ren hesitated. The answer should have been simple, but it wasn't. Her uncle, Victor Holloway, had always been powerful, calculated, the kind of man who smiled while controlling everyone around him. As a child, she admired him. As an adult, she feared him. Finally, she answered, I don't. Ethan nodded. Then he asked quietly, would you help me prove he did this? Ren's breath caught. Helping Ethan would mean going against her own family, against one of the most powerful financial men in the city. It could destroy what little stability she had rebuilt. But then she remembered the boy in the courtyard, the broken rose, the cruel laughter, and the guilt she had carried for 10 years. This was her chance to finally do the right thing. She looked him directly in the eyes. Yes. For the first time that night, Ethan allowed himself a faint smile. Then we start now. Minutes later, they were speeding through the city in Ethan's black car. Rain had begun pouring heavily against the windshield. Inside